So this is the sixth week, and today's topic is on the literature review. So can you see the slides? Can you see
Yes,
the
sir, we can.
slides? Okay. So what is a
Sir,
literature?
slides. Yes, sir.
Gigi, can you see the slides?
Yes, sir. Ab visible हो
Yes,
रहा
sir.
है.
Okay. So the topic for today's lecture is what literature review. So it is one of the most important step in your research. So what is a literature review? It discusses the published information in a particular subject area and sometimes information in a particular subject area within a certain time period. So literature review is actually the summary of all the sources which you have read or compiled in a certain manner, and it is on a certain research topic or a certain domain of research. Literature review includes books, journals, conference articles, technical reports on a specific topic, grouped by theme, and evaluated with regards to the research. So, when you start your literature review, what you do is you will have to read certain articles, books, topics, reports, and you will be asking some of these questions which are highlighted here. That is, first is why you are reading this research paper. What are the authors trying to explain in this research paper, or what is the problem statement of this research paper? So is this research paper relevant to you or not? And how convincing the author are? And what is the conclusion and what use can you take from this conclusion? Okay, so these are the questions you should have in your mind when you are reading some book, article, research paper, and when you are doing and if you find a research topic which is very interesting to you, what you do is you do a reference map. How reference map works is that you have, for example, you start with the most recent research paper, and then you go to the references of that research paper. You are actually moving back in time, and then you try to link the references of different research paper, and you group those references and see what references are important to you and what references are not. And in this way you move back, and this approach is known as a reference map approach in literature review, and this is a very efficient approach to increase your library and to increase your knowledge on a certain topic. So how to review? There are certain steps. Number one, you have to search for the literature. Then you have to sort and prioritize what research paper you should read first. Analyze the papers, evaluate the papers, and then based upon that you can remove some of the papers from your list, or you can dig deep, and then you compare across the studies, organize, and in the end you will write your literature review. Okay, so what are the sources of the literature? Sources can be many. It can be research papers, books, theses, published reports by international or government bodies, conference papers, newspapers, and websites and blogs. So this is the sequence. So the first importance you should give to the research papers, books, and thesis. Then you can move back to reports, conference papers, and then newspapers and websites. So you have to do some assessment when you are doing the literature review. What do I mean by assessment? You have to see the quality of the research paper which you are reading, in what journal it is published. So, for example, in my area of research, that is cement and concrete, there is a journal known as Cement and Concrete Research. So, it is a top ranked journal. It has the impact factor or the quality, or if you actually assess the quality of a journal by the impact factor, how much impact one research paper can have on the or how much it has been cited, is known as the impact factor. So the journal impact factor is 8 on around 9. And generally in my area of research, if the impact factors range between 2 to 4. So if I get a research paper from cement and concrete research, so this research paper will be very authentic. Okay, so this you will in this way you will assess the quality. Okay, from the journal articles from the cement and concrete research will be very top rank, so they have a very good quality. So you should take information from those. And there are some journal papers, journals which are very low quality. So you should not go to those journals and try to avoid getting information from those journals. Then after that, you also have to assess the standing of the author, which means that who is the person who is publishing? Is he an academic or a government employee, or where does he work? Is he a journalist, or which what is where he works? So you can assess the quality of a paper based upon if the standing of the author. Like if a person is from academia, so and from a good university, this means he must have better resources and he must have good quality results. So you can assess on that as well. Yes. Do you have a question? Okay, so what do I do in literature review? So number one is you have to clarify the concept. You have to select a field of research, and then you have to narrow your topic and its significance. Okay, so you have to move in the funnel. So you have a broader topic, then you have to move down, develop the conceptual understanding, terminologies, and then what are the methodologies adopted, techniques, results. Find a focus. What is your problem which you want to study? So based upon that, you actually narrow down your literature review, and in this way you will find a gap. So you will have to identify the areas which you are studying, and is there any duplication effort, like is there a similar experimentation has been done on the so what is you have to identify that. Then you have to move further in the research, and you have to use your creativity to find, like, okay, you have to ask questions on the research which you have to critique the research, and based upon the literature which you are studying. And it is a big approach that you should have a thesis or a dissertation on a similar topic with you, so it will help you in the existing literature. So generally a PhD thesis or a master's thesis have a chapter on literature review, which is an extensive chapter of like comprising of about 70 to 100 research articles or summary of the research articles with the proper critique. So that is very useful. So you should always place a thesis and a dissertation in front of you to find out a gap. Okay. In this way, you will know that what research has been done till now, and then you can use your creativity to find out the gaps. And finding gaps can be done by making some tables, like you, for each research paper you can write down what are the established parameters, what are the challenges or the problems which was tackled, and what are the gaps or unknowns which was left behind, and what are the possibilities. So if you do this on every research article, then you will be able to find out a gap and a possibility very easily. Okay. Now, if anyone have a question, or should I move on?
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Sir,
Correct.
there have been instances when you approach a supervisor, he already has a topic. So if willingly you want to take that topic under the supervisor, and that topic, let's take an example, uses a software to find any simulate to do any simulation. Now for to do the literature review, I go to different research papers, and those research papers have a different methodology on the same topic. And what if I don't understand that methodology, because it's very different to my own to the software I'm using? So doesn't that make this literature review or my literature survey very difficult for me? How am I going to understand that methodology, because it's very unrelated to the methodology I am using? Though I can understand the result will be somewhat good, or result will be easy to understand, but the methodology will be difficult for me to understand. So what should I do
So,
in that way?
so Zarek, your question is related to the methodology. So, first point is you have to see that the methodology adopted, is he giving the same result or something different? That is your first question. Like, is the methodology relevant to you or not? If it is irrelevant, then you can skip. You should not dig deep. Okay. Or you can try to dig deep, and like you can see that, okay, what results you can have from this methodology, or is it, or you can try to create a link with your methodology as well. Like you can create, okay, which methodology gives you better results. You can do that as well. Or you can try to link, like, okay, from by using this methodology you can get this results, which can be used in your methodology to, to find out something else. Okay, so you can try to create a link if you want. Okay, but first you have to see that is the methodology relevant to you or not. Okay.
Right, sir.
And after and you should not rely on just one research paper. You should try to do some multiple studies to develop a methodology, because methodology is one of the most important point in the research. After literature, I found methodology to be the most important. Results are not that important than the methodology, because if someone questions your methodology, this means that he is actually saying that whatever you have done, it is wrong. Then your results doesn't matter. So that is a very important thing which you have to work on methodology. Okay, correct. Um, I hope I have answered your
Yes, sir.
question.
I got it, sir.
Okay, thank you. So now, when you are doing the literature review, it is always important that you should have a page and a pencil, and you should try to summarize the ideas which you are reading, what articles you have studied, what are the plans, and you can use the techniques like mind map or draft a table of content based upon what you are reading. And I will show you an example of a table of content as well. And develop your argument by linking the literature to your research aim. So whatever you are reading, you can develop links to create a research aim, or to your research aim, because research aim is decided first, your problem statement based upon certain literature. which you have studied, and then after the research aim you move forward and do the literature review again. Then you have to back up your opinion, account for different opinions. So for that you will also use your literature review. If you want to enforce your point, then you will need some literature to enforce it. You won't say it, this is the reason why it has happened. So you have to enforce your facts and based on your literature. Account for different opinions. What are the things which can be different to your research or point of views different to your research? Do that as well. Make clear connections, draft and redraft. Be clear about what work is presented. Be focused. Don't write anything which comes in your mind. Look at a good models and get feedback from your supervisor. So this is a statement about the literature review, that the background section or the literature review section should include a review of previous work that has been done on the topic and its current status as a research and conceptual concept problems. So whatever it is published till now, the literature review should organize previous work into a sensible category, not just provide a listing of potential relevant papers. So the literature review chapter should have a story. You have to develop a story of previous work. Make it a sensible story. Don't just write Mr. A has done this, Mr. B has done this, Mr. C has done this, and there is no connection. This is not good. The review need not be exhaustive. It should not be a thesis itself, the literature review. It should not be a like 80 pages chapter. You can you can make it a considerable length of the chapter. Whatever is included should be pertinent, correct, demonstrative of your knowledge of the field. It should be linked to what you are doing. Overly long literature reviews are often an indication that the reviewer does not understand the problem with which he is dealing. If you do an extensive literature review, your literature review chapter is of like 80 to 100 pages. This shows that your literature review is not correct, or you are putting everything. You are just filling the pages. You don't have the understanding of the topic, or you are not actually fully aware what you are studying. So in the literature review, when you are making the story, so you have to critique and you have to link the topics with your problem statement, and in the end of the chapter you will highlight the conclusion of your literature review, that what was missing in all the literature review which you will be studying. And to find out the conclusion, what you have to do is you have to critique. So what are the barriers which can come in the mind of a person is like, I am not expert, so I cannot comment. I feel uncomfortable being critical of a published work. I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't know how to say my opinion appropriately. So these are the things which can come in your mind, especially when you have an assignment 3 on critical review of a research paper. So remove these barriers. Okay, don't include yourself in these barriers. Ensure that so what are the advices I can give is that ensure that your notes from your reading includes the categories from the article review task. For example, full citation, keywords, methods. So first is list down all the points. What are the contribution of the research? Then in your literature review, critique and critical is in an academic context do not mean to find fault in someone or something. You are actually not critiquing the person who has done the research. You can be critical about some of the results of the research paper. Your review should be fair, unbiased, accurate evaluation of the state of the art. So you should be fair, unbiased. You are just putting your point of view, and you can also support your point of view based upon some other research as well. And based upon your point of view, you can find out that, okay, this has not been done, and this is the gap which I'm studying. So this chapter needs planning, reading, analysis, drafting, and so you have to select a topic. So the process is very straightforward. So the first step is you have to select a topic. Okay, being an offspring of interest in a specific problem. So when you have a problem in mind, you can select a topic, what you are trying to solve. Then you will do some literature review to find out the information on the data that provides the strongest evidence. Like, is he be done, how people have done it, and then develop an argument, form a case, argue the case, like what you are going to evaluate. And then after that, you do again the literature's review, assemble, organize, analyze the data from the past till now. Okay, so you have to organize it. You can skip some topics, you can add some topics, and then you can critique in the literature, like interpret the evidence found, arrange evidence logically to form an argument that justifies the thesis. So you have to create, I'm talking about the same thing. You have to create a gap. You have to form an argument that justifies your thesis, that okay, the problem statement which I am trying to solve is not been done, or it has been ignored by people, or you and you can do that by critiquing. And then you write your review, produce a document that communicates the results of a project. Okay, yes, anyone, any question?
सर के वो तो
नो सर।
शेड्यूल में 3 बजे लिखी हुई थी क्लास, तो किसी ने बताया नहीं, हम तो अभी आए हैं, तो ये
कोई बात,
कहाँ से अलग है
नो
कि
वरीज.
ओके
Okay, so based upon the uh, data which so I was talking about the literature review steps, which includes certain points. After that, use a variety of sources. So what are the sources which you can use? Number one, research papers, technical papers, conference papers, thesis, reports, personal contacts, or whatever. And then you can try to link whatever you are studying. Second important point, demonstrate understanding and insight. Comparing, contrasting, evaluating, which means that you will be actually critiquing or comparing the research of different people. You are contrasting, comparing, and then evaluating means that you are actually also evaluating that is it relevant to your research or not, or evaluating the results and explanations, understanding the explanations. And then the last step would be identifying the gap, being critiquing. Hope you can create some problems out of the research presented, or new possibilities or relevance to your research. Or you should you while evaluating, you can also create a certain problem which you can try to solve. You can highlight a problem that okay, this person forgot to work on this, or he hasn't answered this point, so you can do that as well. So if I give you an overview of this process of the literature review. So the first is you should have an initial topic, and this initial topic is not your final topic. This should be like the basic initial topic, a broader topic which comes in your mind, and then what you do is you try to dig deep. You choose, explore, and focus. You focus on the topic and you explore the topic, and you will see that what is the research available, is it too much or too little, discovering the new ideas, and you keep on writing everything which you are reading. After you will be doing like research and collect the information. So what you are doing is you have a broader topic and you have started researching, you are reading papers, you are studying the databases, and you find and evaluate and select an article. And whatever you are selecting, evaluating, you keep it in a proper record. I will also teach you how to record a literature with whatever you are studying. After that, you save your work in a proper citation manager software like EndNote or Mendeley, and you read, analyze, and synthesize your results or whatever you are studying, and develop your conceptual framework. Work with the article and the brain. Yeah, like try to question, try to critique whatever you are studying. When you are digging deep, you create an interest on a certain point, then you keep on digging, and then you further refine your topic, because your topic was a very general broader topic, but after going through this process you have created a certain interest in your mind that okay, I think I should target this point in this research, and I till now I haven't find anything related to that. So use your citation manager to stay organized. You keep on organizing, you try whatever you are studying, keep your citation manager software update, and then you write and revise. So by doing this writing and revision, your topic is actually modified. So this means that the topic which you have selected in the start will not be the same when by the end of this process. So it will be a slightly different topic in the similar domain, but you have actually pinpointed the problem which you are going to study, and that will be your topic. Now, the in the literature review, the second is operationalizing the literature, or first is how to conduct the review. So how to review? So this I have discussed previously as well, that set out your thinking on paper through maps and trees, like try to create a reference map, and on the reference map you are actually start from the latest research paper, and then you go to the references of that research paper and you create a map, and then you create links between the papers which you are studying, and then it would be helping you in uh, pinpointing a problem which you want to study. When you are trying to make a literature review chapter, so this is just an example. So for example, this is a chapter on construction machinery, maybe. So he has given the introduction, then roles of the machinery, and then importance of the machinery, concepts on selecting a machinery, and the summary of the review of the literature. So here you can see it is a 30 to 40 pages chapter, 30 pages chapter, and he started with just the introduction, then what are the machinery available, importance, and the concepts on selection. So his research will be more focused on the selection of the machinery, and in the end he has given a summary or the review in which he will identify the problem which he will tackle in this research. He will conclude this chapter on a problem statement which will be tackled in this research, and which was the gap in this literature review survey. So focus on the database that index scholarly literature. So there are different database available which actually gives you the literature. Identify the useful search terms in research, a document type or the subject heading. Use keywords might narrow your research. So so there are different techniques. So when you are doing a literature review or you are searching the literature, so I will explain it in detail in the second part of the today's lecture, that you can use multiple techniques. You can either have a certain keyword in your mind. For example, let's suppose um, you want to study carbonation. Okay, so microstructure of concrete or uh, bituminous concrete, or maybe like, so you have a certain keyword, so you can use those keywords to find out the topics on those words. Okay, and you can also find the citations, like if you find a research paper, so from the citations you can also find, citation is like a person who cites some other person's work, so that is a citation. If he gives a reference to a citation, it means the references, so you can use the references, or you can identify the key author, so you know that okay, this person has done research on carbonation, so you go to this person's Google Scholar or ResearchGate profile, and you see what are the research papers or research projects he has done. So from there you can get some data or some papers to study.
That's good idea.
Yes. Do anyone have a question?
Sir,
Yes, Yasir.
sir, while doing critique, sir, a review paper, sir, we should express only our ideas, or we should express what the author is saying or what the publisher is saying. Should we include both, or should we include our opinion on based on the
When
publisher's
when
work?
when Yasir, when you are writing a literature review, what you do is you present, first thing is you present the paper or the, so for example, Miss Irfan and Hamad has done research, like you present the research on the research paper by telling that okay, these are the authors who studied, in the bracket you mentioned the year in 2010, studied the performance of geopolymer concrete against the acid. Okay, and these are the findings, and he found it that the geopolymer concrete works very good against the acid, and it is one of the best concrete, or whatever is the results, or the compressive strength reduction was very limited, and this and that. So your first point is, Yasir, you present your results. First point is you present the paper which you are studying. So in this you actually present all the papers, and in the end you actually critique that okay, you, or under each research paper you can critique that okay, we forgot to study this, but microstructure evaluation was not performed in this research, or he said that in geopolymer concrete certain minerals were formed and the microstructure was disturbed, but no experimental results were presented to support these results, so you can critique as well. Okay,
So, sir, first we will explain their work, and we will then find the gaps in their work
or
that
something, yeah,
they haven't
exactly, you
done
can,
yet. Done yet.
yeah, exactly, or you would say that is you will highlight the findings. You don't have to explain, dig deep into the methodology in the literature review, that okay, Mr. Hamad and Irfan has studied the the durability of geopolymer against acid by exposing it into the acid for 100 days at 1% sulfuric acid and in a controlled environment. You don't have to go into these details. You just highlight the what they try to study and what are the conclusions and the results they have drawn. Okay.
Yes.
thank you. Any other question? Okay. So when you are reading a research paper, what should be your approach? So I think I've discussed it in the previous lecture. Someone asked me this question as well. But what you do is you start with the title and the abstract and the headings. So what is the title? What is the abstract? Abstract is just one paragraph of a summary. After reading, read some introduction, look for the motivations, assumptions, relations of the work, overview. So in the introduction, you will get some idea. You will get some literature review in the introduction as well, and then you can read the conclusions. You can skip the methodology and everything. You can go to the conclusion and see that what are the conclusions they have presented, and if relevant, go. If you find the conclusions interesting and it is relevant to what you are trying to find out, then you can go back to the body of the article. You can see the methodology. Still, you can skip some equations if they are in your first review. So this is, and there are some of the websites which you can use to search. These are the databases available in which you can search out the articles and the research papers. Always use some keywords. They are individual words and phrases which describes the topic you are studying. Select good keywords is very important. Don't select concrete. So now concrete is something very very broad. It is actually too broad. So be very concise. If too limited, you may overlook relevant research literature. So select a word which best describes. If too broad, you may spend time locating and reviewing. So if you select, let's say, concrete, so in concrete, you will find like 50,000 research papers on concrete. It is a baseless or microstructure. What do I mean by so? Use some logical words. The best advice is to start with a broad keyword and then narrow to a more confined list. Okay, so this is a website on Web of Science. So you can here you can example you can search a topic. You can write a in the basic search. You can write some keywords and you can click search to find out the research papers. So the topic, the title of the article, review, proceeding books. So there are in the first is the title, the second is the abstract, which is the work summary containing the key points, research questions, methodology, discussion, and conclusion. This field is supplied by the authors of the article or the paper. Then the keywords. The keywords field is one of these supplied by the author and tags the main and the subtopics of the paper's context. So keywords actually defines that this research paper covers these topics. So keywords plus field is is an algorithm that provides expanded terms stemming from the record cited reference. So keyword is a very good approach to find out the research paper which has done research on the specific keyword. So keyword is actually defines the topic or the supply, the main paper content or context of the paper. Okay, this was the review of the any question on this on this part of the lecture.
Sir, can we access the Web of Science through our university given IDs?
Yes, you can. But
Okay.
I guess if you want to download a research paper, you need to use the webs. Like you should be connected to the university internet, I guess, because you can't download a research paper from your home, or you can.
Yes.
Sir, we
I
have
guess
to
with
connect with, I think, digital library, sir. NUS digital library.
NUS Digital Library. Yes, you can download it from NUS Digital Library as well. So any one of you who have some uh, manual on how to download a research paper from NUS Digital Library, please share it on this channel so that other people can also be benefited from it. Okay.
Sir, but the NUST digital library doesn't work outside the campus. I read the manual and I tried to use it, but the it is a very complicated the method.
Can you use VPN to get access to the NUST digital library?
Sir, I have tried to create VPN, sir, but it is not connecting, sir. It is giving an error.
I also sir tried VPN. They mentioned that you have to contact your cellular network or the internet provider for opening some port. But when we call
Yes,
them,
sir.
they say that
They were saying
no.
that we have to contact with IT team or something similar to
Okay.
that.
Okay. Then I can advise you that ask your friends who are living in the hostel to send you some research paper. Sorry, I don't know an answer to your problem for regarding downloading. Or there are maybe some sites which also give free research papers, if I'm not wrong. There are open access journals.
Sir,
But
Science Hub,
sorry,
sir, Science Hub give the access,
Research
sir.
gate.
science have, yeah,
Research
exactly,
gates.
ResearchGate. But generally, you have to be very careful about the quality of the open access journals because some papers doesn't have a very good research quality. So generally, people try to uh, use those papers which are referred from ISI indexed or properly like publishers like elsewhere. So, but yes, you can use those size hub or those cheat sites as well. Okay, so the second part of the lecture is analyzing the literature review. So there are four analysis tasks of a literature review, that is summarize, synthesize, critique, and compare. Synthesize in your own words. You should use your own words to summarize the key findings of the paper. What do you know about the immediate area? What are the key arguments, key concepts? What are the existing debates, theories, common methodologies? So you when you do the summary, you can only target those points which are very important in the research paper. You will not summarize everything. It is a kind of an abstract of the research paper in your own words. So you can use simple sample language for some, like Ali has demonstrated. Early work by Ahmed, John, and Fatma was concerned with. So Rana and Bhatti compared algorithms for this. Additional work by Tom ETL and Jerry ETL deals with. So you can use these kinds of sample sentences to highlight or summarize the work of anyone. Okay? You generally add etal dot when the authors are more than two. Okay. When there are only two authors, you just write Rana and Bhatti. If there is only one author, Ali has been. When there are three or four or five or 10 authors, then you just write the first author name and you write ETAL. Okay. So digging into the literature, so these are the major works A, B, and C, and these are the studies that rely on the major work. So there is this study who utilized the methodology B to find out some thing, and there is these two studies who have used this methodology, and there is also a link between A and B as well. So you observe that these are the different studies which you have read. These are, or you can say these are the papers which you have read based upon these multiple methodologies A, B, and C. Then something is remaining, something was left behind, which you can link with this research paper and which can be done on the methodology B. So this is something new. So this is a gap which you can work on. It is very important that you should always try to hit a gap, because if you study a gap, then it will be very it will you can easily publish it. Okay, you can publish it in some reputable journal. But if you have studied something which has already been studied, then it becomes very difficult for it to be published, and you won't enjoy the luxury of publishing a paper. So when you are critiquing it, so what you can do is, let's suppose there is a definition of an X by the first author in 1984. This is the first definition. Then another author comes in 1985 and he defined the same thing, but he disagreed with the first author. He has given his own definition. Then another author came and he has agreed with the first author but added some A, B, and C additional terms into the definition. And then in someone came in 1987 and he redefined this term X and he disagreed with all the previous. So this is actually a way of critiquing. All are trying to answer the same thing, X. But with the passage of time, the definition has improved in this way that people have researched and they have defined it in a multiple different techniques. So comparison and critiquing is evaluating the strength and the weaknesses of the work. It is always important that when you are critiquing, you should always highlight the positives of a research as well. You should not say that everything is wrong in this research paper. Since it has been published, it has some strengths. So target on the strength as well. But you have to decide that either the strengths are more or the weaknesses are more. So how do the different studies relate? What is the new and different or controversial? What views needs further testing? What evidence is lacking? And what research design or method seems unsatisfactory? You can contradict it. Or so you can ask these questions when you are trying to compare with some other research or you are trying to critique it. Then based upon that, you will be able to compare and critique the research. Sample language for comparison and critiquing is, in this ambitious but flawed study. So this is Jones and Wang. Okay, this is a one way of critiquing. So he said that it is a flawed study. These general results reflecting the stochastic nature of the flow of goods are similar to those reported by Rosen and Roll. So this is a one way of comparison. The rationalist model has also received its share of criticism. One of the most frequently cited shortcomings of this approach centers around the assumption that perception is dependent on potential gain. So it is a way of critiquing that the shortcomings or the critiquing you are trying to highlight has already been highlighted, and it is the most frequent highlighted shortcoming. And then in the analyzing, you put it all together. Once you have summarized, synthesized, compared, and critiqued your chosen material, you may consider whether these studies demonstrate the topic's chronological development, show different approaches to the problem, show ongoing debate, center on an important and new direction studies, and demonstrate a paradigm shift. Like what new approach? So based upon all these analysis techniques which you have which was highlighted above, you should demonstrate the topic's development, chronological development, like how the topic was developed, what were the different approaches utilized, what was the ongoing debates in the form of a critique by different people, what was the important and new direction of the study which was not studied till now, and you demonstrate the paradigm shift by which you will be studying or which you will be planning to highlight.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, what is paradigm shift, sir?
paradigm shift means something new or a new approach or a new way of seeing something,
Okay,
okay,
okay.
which was ignored. You can also Google it if you will also get.
So may I comment?
Yes, please.
सर जैसे न्यूटोनियन फिजिक्स से रिलेटिव और ये जो आइंस्टाइन नियन और फिर उससे फिर क्वांटम फिजिक्स में जो शिफ्ट है इसे पैराडाइम शिफ्ट्स की एग्जांपल कहा जा सकता है
Like
कि ग्रेविटी को देखने का जो हमारा नजरिया था वो
वो
पहले कुछ और
तब्दील
था
होगी.
और किस तरह हो
So,
चुका है
which means that you are the way of thinking to a problem has been changed, right, Sama?
यस
Yeah, or a different approach was developed to solve a similar problem. Salman, you have a question? Okay. So, in the end, you should know what the researchers know about the field. What do researchers not know or forgot, or why should we further study this topic, and what will be my study contribute? So, these are the answers you should have or you should highlight in the summary or at the end or the conclusion of your chapter 2. Okay. And when you are grouping it in the literature review, you can, there are different approaches like chronological, like you can start from the earliest and you can end at the latest, or seminal studies, various landmark approaches, study one, study two. You can highlight a topic, and on each topic you can start study one to study three. Then the second topic you can devise a topic theme based literature review, or you can move from a distant to a very close. You can dig in, you can use a funnel approach, or you can use a phenomenon and research two main parts, that is part review the key theories and then review the current methods and results. So you can theories, highlight the theories first and the methods. So there are different combinations which researchers adopt in their literature. You can use any one of them. And it is also very important that when you're reading a research paper or anything or a thesis or a journal, you should see the voice of the writer, how he is trying to highlight or emphasize on certain points. Like locate the words and phrases that are used to introduce a source. Locate the words or the phrases that indicate the writer's stance or opinions towards a source. Like, what is his stand? Is he positive or negative or neutral? Is he like highlighting it very highly, or uh, putting his emphasis, or he's critiquing it? So you should understand the the, the, the tone of the writer. You can target some words or phrases that are related to concede a point or to give an emphasis on certain points, like while, although, however, nevertheless, contrary. So these words you can see that okay, he's emphasizing on certain point, on certain. Where does the writer summarize and paraphrase the ideas in the literature? How much detail do they provide? And you, is the author strong author focus, or like is he strongly focused on some point, or he is just like highlighting it on a superficial level, just touching it and then leaving it? You can understand it, the important. So from these way of identifying the writer's voice on a certain, you can understand that how much deeper he will go into a certain topic and what topics he will just touch and leave. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So after the literature search, uh, so now yes, so we were discussing about the tone of the writer. Uh, After that, what helps? What are the qualities you will achieve by doing the literature search? So this is also a very important point I want to highlight. You become an expert on a certain topic. You, when you are doing literature review or literature search, you understand all the aspects of the topic. You find other works relevant to the topic, and when you are studying, and then you will try to dig deep. You will be seeing the researchers who are working in the similar area in what you are trying to review or research. You find the projects they work on, and you also try to track the research trends which is moving ahead, people are working on. So in this way, you determine the appropriate publishing venues, build a collection of useful resources. When you are trying to track a certain research group or a research, so this actually helps you become an expert. You also keep on reading their research or the relevant research published in a certain current years, or so this actually helps you develop understanding and the knowledge. So in this way, you become an expert. So this is a very important point. And what is a state of the art? So you also what you do is that you try to see that who are the people who are studying on the same problem which you are studying. You try to see what they are studying, and you also try to find out what are the differences in your research and their research. So this is a kind of a state of an art, and this also helps you to review other people's data, or you also try to find out the gaps with your research and other person's research who are trying to tackle the same problem which you are trying to tackle. Okay, so this actually improves your critical capability and your creativity portion as well. So you also try to build up a bibliography or the reference of all the citable data in the form of a metadata in a certain software, and you create a bibliography at the end of your thesis and notes on such sources for the literature review. In the end, the process is you search, you find the relevant material, you evaluate, you determine the quality of the material, you record, keep the material in a usable form, and you cite the sources in your own work. And this is the process of the literature review. Any question till now? So today's I will finish the lecture with there's just one topic to discuss in today's lecture. So if you have any question, you can ask, or should I move on that topic? Yes, any question? I will upload the slides which we will cover today on the LMS. Okay, so no one has a question. So
सर
yes.
सर बिब्लियोग्राफी में तो ये रिसोर्सेज भी आ जाते हैं जो हम रिसर्च पेपर वगैरह पढ़ते हैं कि नहीं, मतलब अगर सपोज मैंने रिसर्च पेपर रीड किया और उसमें से जो मैंने सीखा उसको अपने वर्ड्स में लिखा, तो एक तो ये बात है, एक यो जो रिसर्च पेपर में कोड है उसी बात को जब मैं लिखूंगा रिसर्च पेपर में लिटरेचर रिव्यू में, तो इसमें से जो मैंने अपने वर्ड्स में लिखा हो वो बिब्लियोग्राफी में आता है, और जो मैंने रिसर्च पेपर से सेम वर्ड्स कॉपी किए हो तो उसको फिर मैं मतलब रेफरेंस उसके साथ यूज करूंगा.
So in bibliography, what you are going to add is whatever you are reading that will be in the bibliography, and when you are writing your literature, so you will highlight their work in your own language. Okay, and then you can also compare, critique it. Manzoor, have I answered your question?
Yes, sir.
So generally in the past, what bibliographic search happens. So generally people used to go into the library, they find out journals and proceedings, go onto the shelves, scan the volumes, table of contents, find out the paper related to them or a book, and then they photocopy it, use the references to find out the prior work, previous work, and use the citation index to find out the later work, and of course read the paper. So previously the literature review was a very hectic and a difficult task. Now it has become very easy. You have Google Scholar, you have some sources, you can just download a paper in a PDF form, save it, you can create a database on Mendeley or EndNote software. You can write it on your paper. You can read your the papers on your mobile phones and record them and read the. So this has become bibliographic search has become more easy. So generally, the online search, what are the requirements? So you the requirements for an effective online searching uh, is that you have to focus on the research. You have to create there are 2 to 3 techniques which were discussed. Like you have to start from a broader topic, and then you can also work on a chronological order, and you can study the references from the previous to find out the previous research. And there is a large collection of articles, papers, and theses. So keep a thesis on a similar domain with you to get a literature survey from there and get an idea. And the second was using keywords to find out the online search. So keywords is a very easy way, and then you can but in keywords select a best keyword which suits to your topic. Don't take a very broader keyword, and you can always use some online available search engines like Google Scholar, ResearchGate, Academia, or maybe let's suppose Science Direct. So there are multiple online databases. So so Google Scholar is not the only search source. So there are some ACM Digital Library, IEEE Explorer. You can go to NUS Digital Library, Scoopers, PubWeb, and big advantage, easy to use the interface. The point about the Google Scholar is that its interface is very easy. You can search any person, you can search an article, you can search a journal, you can search a keywords, whatever. In the searching tip, do not stop after scanning the first page. So when you are doing a Google Scholar research, so what you will see is that you will find, don't stop at the first page of the Google Scholar. Go to the second and third page as well. Do not stop after one query. Try alternative terms. Use multiple keywords to find out. Double quote for more precise search. Okay, and you can add to include certain top words, or you can subtract or exclude some words. Make use of advanced Google search, and you can also in under every research paper there is a cited by to find the later work. Who has cited? You can find out the citation chain of development of areas, and you can see the chain of citation to see that you can also find multiple additional research papers, and related articles finds other relevant works. So from the related articles you can go to the other relevant research papers which you might have skipped, and those papers which have the keyword which doesn't have the keyword which you are looking for. So author names, links. So it is also very important to use the author's name, because if you know the person who is working on the similar problem, so you can use his name to find out the papers on that, on the problem which you are trying to solve. So the last part of the today's lecture is plagiarism. So plagiarism is actually a very serious offense in the university and in the professional field. What plagiarism means is that a person copies some other work and presented it as your own. To understand it, plagiarism, let's suppose you have worked maybe 3 to 4 weeks on a certain research paper, or let's suppose you have spent a very critical time of your life on making a very beautiful research picture, or a or some sort of an article, and some other person comes and he takes your work and presented it has his own, and it has happened in different countries of the world. So this is a very serious offense. It can ban you for life from working in university or academia, and maybe journals can uh, stop you from publishing as well. So most plagiarism is unintentional and is usually a sign of poor note making and poor summarizing and paraphrasing skills. Generally, there is no person is that much stupid, I would say, that he takes someone else's work and presented it has its own. Generally, the plagiarism happens as unintentional. Uh, Generally, people when they are writing, they uh, they are not very good in summarizing some other person's work. So generally, plagiarism happens in your literature survey chapter, where you are telling other person's work, and when you are summarizing or paraphrasing, you might so there is a sometimes uh, you were unable to summarize it properly, and this leads to the plagiarism. Plagiarisms can be reduced by taking accurate notes. So you take the notes, good summarizing and paraphrasing skills, work on it, how you can paraphrase it, and by following a referencing conventions, which means that you cite whoever work it is. Citation is very important. If you don't cite and tell something as your own, then this is a problem. This comes under plagiarism. So this is the plagiarism sequence. So first is downloading a research paper from the web and submitting it as your own. So this is the biggest crime That you download a research paper, convert it into a Word format, and submit it into another journal. So this is a crime. So this is the biggest crime. Comes under plagiarism. Second is buying, borrowing, stealing a text and submitting it as your own. So you copy paste a text from some other research paper. Copying text without quoting or citing the references. So if you are copying a text but you are not quoting it, that whose work, whose definition it is you are telling, or you are not citing the reference, you are not giving the reference, so this comes under the plagiarism. Or you are summarizing the ideas from another text without citing the reference. It is also very important that when you are uh, paraphrasing someone else's work, you should always cite it. You should always cite that this is the person like you should always cite the work which you are trying to summarize. And repeated use of quotations in an assignment, so this is also not good. So ask yourself, how do I know this? For example, you read it somewhere, then you have to give the reference from where you have read it. If you have a question, do I reference other people's images, figures, tables, photograph? The answer is yes, because anything in an assignment that is not yours must be acknowledged. Do I have to reference even if I put it in my own words or change the image slash data a bit? Yes, your paragraphs, summaries, quotations, and adopted information must be acknowledged, must be cited. So this is very important. So you have to cite, either you are taking the images or you, you are summarizing someone else's work in your own word, still you have to give the reference. And how this plagiarism is checked, it is by a software known as Turnitin, and it gives you the similarity index. Generally less than 15% is fine. But similarity of some technical words is ignored. So let's suppose there is a certain word which is the same. You can't change the word. For example, concrete, some technical word. Okay, so you can't change a technical word. You can't replace a concrete with some other thing. So it is okay, but similarity is not okay for sentences, sections, images, cut and paste. So it is not allowed. So have you referenced all your sources of information? For example, in this picture, this is a example of a similarity index report by Turnitin. So in this this now here the similarity is with this topic section 2. Now section 2 can be in any research paper or this is not it is a common word, section 2, so it can be ignored. But here the whole paragraph or a whole sentence is copied, the control of, so now it is not allowed. So this is not allowed in plagiarism. So this is a high similarity of 53%. So if the similarity is high, you have to resubmit. Okay. The reason I pointed out this is that I found some people who have a very high similarity index in the first assignment. So this is not allowed. And this is a crime, in other words. That's why I've highlighted this in today's lecture. Any other question if you have in your mind?
The reference और citation में क्या फर्क है?
Sorry?
What's the difference between reference and citation?
Reference and citation is exactly the same thing. Citation means that you are referencing, you are referencing a certain person's work, or citing means you is the same thing. References is at the end of your thesis, which is also known as the bibliography. So in the bibliography, you all the references are mentioned, which, whichever you have cited in your thesis or report or research paper, whatever. Okay. Any other question?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Abdullah.
Sir, can you give some description or explanation of what's the difference between journal article and a conference article and a book, and what part can they play in our thesis or research?
This is a very good question, Abdullah. Generally, a journal article is um, so there are different journals who which publishes their different issues or volumes, and in that they have a different papers. So generally, a journal article is a research paper which is published in a journal. Conference paper is a paper which is published or which have been presented in a conference, and some conferences has a proper proceedings in which a paper has been published, and some conferences does not. Okay, so you have to so the quality. Generally, in a conference paper, people don't have a lot of time, so the research paper is not that extensive. It's just targeting one result or one topic or one experimental results. Generally, people don't publish or present everything in the conference paper, because what happens if the conference paper research paper is becomes the if a conference paper article is published, then you can't publish it in the journal. It comes under the plagiarism. Okay, even if it is your own work. So people are very careful when they publish their work in a conference. Okay. I hope I have answered your
Yes, sir.
question, Abdullah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other question?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Muhammad Uzair.
Sir, the research that I'd like to conduct is actually a hydrological model for which I need to use GIS and some other softwares. I asked the GIS instructor that is it included in the content. He said no. So what are the ways, sir, that I can learn those softwares to use it in my modeling?
Uzair, sorry, I don't understand your question. Can you repeat?
सर ये जो हाइड्रोलॉजिकल मॉडल है मैं जो रिसर्च में यूज़ करना चाहता हूँ मैंने जीआईएस टीचर से पूछा कि अगर इस कोर्स कंटेंट में है तो उन्होंने कहा कि कोर्स कंटेंट में भी नहीं है तो सर व्हाट इज हाउ कैन आई लर्न
How can you learn those models?
यस सर यस
So, Uzair, there are different approaches. There, people research models on a different database, Google Scholars, and you can also talk to some person who is expert in the field, who knows how to use the model, or you can try to learn the tools, for example, Python language, programming skills, to use those models by doing it by yourself. Or you can also, if it is very common, you might have some you can also search it on YouTube or some where you can find some information.
थैंक यू सर
Okay. Any other question?
karena pemerintah anu kota na ko changa ani igu chaini dana birda I need an
Yes. Does anyone have a question? Or should we finish the lecture?
drill जरा चल रहा हाँ जरा drill चल रहा
Ikrama, you have a question?
क्या हो गया क्या है मुझे बिना दिया
Yes, Abdul Muiz. I guess everyone is traveling nowadays. Okay. Thank you very much, class, for your time. And see you next week, inshallah.
एक्सक्यूज मी
Allah
सर
Hafiz.
ये स्लाइड सर शेयर कर दे
I will share the slides on LMS.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.
अल्लाह
Thank
हाफिज
you,
सर
sir. Allah Hafiz.